This afternoon, prosecutors in Kansas City, Missouri filed 2 felony charges against the 85-year-old white man who shot a 16-year-old black boy last week. Ralph Yarl was out picking up his younger brothers when he accidentally approached the wrong house on Thursday evening. The homeowner, Andrew Lester, shot Yarl twice through a closed window, hitting him once in the head and then a second time in the arm. Lester was initially taken into custody for just 24 hours, but then was released without being charged. But now a warrant is out for his arrest.
This afternoon, my office received a criminal referral from the Kansas City, Missouri Police Department. After a thorough review of the case file, the appropriate laws, and information gained during the investigation phase of the case, I filed 2 felony counts. We understand how frustrating this has been, but I can assure you that the criminal justice system is working and will continue to work.
Lester faces charges of assault in the first degree and armed criminal action, carrying a sentence of up to life in prison. Meanwhile, tonight, Ralph Yarl is thankfully in stable condition and has been released from the hospital. Benjamin Crump is representing the family of Ralph Yarl. He joins me now. Attorney Crump, it's great to see you again. Thank you so much for making time for us on what I can only imagine has been a busy day for you. First, what is your reaction to these charges filed against Mr. Lester? Are you satisfied with them? Did you want to see attempted murder as a possible charge?
Well, Eamon, we always want to have people who injure our children or kill our children have the maximum that the law would allow. However, after talking with his family, they are relieved that this person who attempted to murder their 16-year-old child just for ringing the doorbell will be facing felony charges that could have him imprisoned for life. So it's a step in the right direction. We know we can't get happy with just charges. We have to see this through to the conviction.
You mentioned the family is relieved. Can you expand more on the reaction to the charges? Were they concerned that the charges were not going to be brought had it not been for the public pressure campaign over the last several days that brought this to the forefront of the national attention?
They were very concerned, Eamon. In fact, you know, you all said he was held for 24 hours. That's not correct. He was only held for 20 minutes of questioning. And then they allowed this man to leave and go home and sleep in his bed. And so they were very concerned whether they were going to see a bias justice system at play, as we in the black community have saw far too often. And, you know, President Biden called the family today to offer prayers and to check on Ralph and to tell them, you know, that everybody is praying for him. And it was 15 minutes after the conversation with President Biden that the prosecutor had his press conference to announce that they were, in fact, going to not have another miscarriage of justice again for an unarmed black child who was shot by a would-be vigilante.
Speaking of that, let me ask you about Missouri's Stand Your Ground law. Missouri does have that law in place. Do you expect Lester to use it in his defense? How would you counter that argument that he was defending his castle or standing his ground?
You know, my co-counsel, my Omega brother Lee Merritt, and I, we've been talking about this with our legal team, and we know that they always raise these asinine defenses when they profile our children and kill them. We know that from Trayvon Martin in past history and even more recent history with Ahmaud Arbery. And in both of those instances, just like this one, the shooters of these unarmed black young people were allowed to go home and sleep in their beds at night. And so we know they're going to come up with this defense. And we have to continue to hold a mirror to America's face and say how asinine this is, that if the roles would have been reversed and that would have been a black man who shot a 16-year-old kid in the head for merely ringing the doorbell, and then came and shot a second shot aiming at his chest, and if his arm wasn't there, would have entered into his chest area, that he would have been arrested immediately and processed and not let out of jail until there was a bail. There would not been a 20-minute question and answer session and then pat him on the back and say, all is well. No, that black man would have went to jail, and had he not went to jail for shooting a 16-year-old white teenager, then it would have been a national outcry like we've never seen in America. So when they tell us stand your ground, amen, we just remind them that, you know, we can't have where black people are profiled just for ringing a doorbell and then they're shot. What would happen to Amazon deliveries and FedEx deliveries?
Yeah, no, and you bring up a really good point and a heartbreaking point when you mentioned Trayvon Martin, Ahmaud Arbery. We're all familiar with what happened with them. What needs to be done to better protect our young black men and children?
Well, you know, people often ask, Eamon, well, what can we tell our children? Well, we can't tell our children anything to keep them from being discriminated against or profiled. I mean, driving while black, shopping while black, walking while black. You know, there's nothing we can do. Now we're talking about ringing a doorbell while black. What we have to do is teach citizens in America, our white brothers and sisters, that just like you love your children and you want people to treat them with dignity and respect, well, we want the same thing for our children. And the same way you would give your own children the benefit of the doubt, the benefit of consideration, and the benefit of respect, well, that's what Black America wants for our children also.
Let's hope that we can deliver that, at least for the sake of Ralph Yarl and his family. Benjamin Crump, thank you so much for your time. I greatly appreciate. I know it has been a very difficult day for you and the family. Thank you, sir.
Keep him in prayer. It's a miracle that he was not killed here.
Absolutely, we will. Thank you, sir.